In every corner of this great land, legends were born. From fearless frontiersmen to forgotten outlaws, from heroic patriots to mysterious pirates, these are the untold stories that shaped America. Welcome to American Legends, where history comes alive. Subscribe and step into the past.
Mary Sherman Morgan, the rocket fuel genius America forgot. She wasn't an astronaut. She never stood before cameras or received a medal from the president. Yet without her, America's first satellite might never have left the ground. She was the only woman in a room full of men, working in secrecy during the most intense years of the space race. Her name? Mary Sherman Morgan, the first female rocket scientist in the United States and the inventor of a fuel that changed history. Mary Sherman was born in 1921 on a small farm near Ray, North Dakota. The world she entered was one of hardship. Her family's farmhouse had no electricity, no running water, no telephone. Winters were brutal. Summers were grueling. Her parents, strict and deeply private, rarely encouraged her education. In fact, Mary didn't attend formal school until she was well into her teenage years. And even then, she missed classes often to help with farm work. But Mary had a quiet gift. She was curious. She had a mind that could see patterns where others saw chaos. She devoured the few books she could find, especially those on science and mathematics. While other girls her age were told to dream of marriage, Mary dreamed of experiments. In her later years, Mary's son George would recall that she sometimes spoke of her upbringing almost like it was another world, one where she was isolated, underestimated, and underestimated even more because she was a girl. By the early 1940s, the world was at war. The United States had entered World War II, and factories across the country were desperate for skilled workers. Mary left North Dakota to Cleveland, Ohio, to work in a munitions factory. She was placed in one of the most dangerous positions possible, handling highly explosive chemicals used to make military ordnance. It was here that her natural talent for chemistry began to shine. Mary quickly learned how to control volatile reactions, measure ingredients to microscopic precision, and even suggest safer, more efficient processes to her supervisors, most of whom were men with far more formal schooling. By the time the war ended in 1945, Mary had something she never expected: a professional reputation. She had proven herself in the male-dominated world of chemical engineering without even having a college degree. After the war, Mary took a position at North American Aviation in California. The company was working on cutting-edge aerospace technology for the U.S. military. There, Mary was assigned to the propellants group, where scientists developed liquid fuels for rockets and missiles. In the early 1950s, her work focused on improving performance and stability in liquid propellants for the Army's Redstone program. She was often the only woman in the lab, and almost always the only one without an advanced degree. Yet her skill was undeniable. Then came the shock of October 4th, 1957. The Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the world's first artificial satellite. Overnight, the United States was in a full-blown panic. The government demanded a rapid response. Launch an American satellite fast. The problem? Existing rocket fuels weren't powerful enough to get the job done. The Redstone needed a major boost, and that's when Mary Sherman Morgan was called in. Mary's task was daunting: develop a brand new rocket fuel from scratch in record time. It needed to be far more powerful than anything the U.S. had used before, but still safe enough to handle without disaster. She worked long hours in near total secrecy. Security was tight. Much of her research was classified, meaning few outside her immediate team even knew what she was working on. The breakthrough came in the form of Hydyne, a blend of 60% unsymmetrical dimethylhydrazine, or UDMH, and 40% diethylene triamine, DETA. Hydyne offered 12% more thrust than the Redstone's previous fuel. That difference was critical. It meant the rocket could carry enough payload to reach orbit. Mary's contribution didn't stop at invention. She worked closely with engineers to fine-tune the fuel stability, ensuring it would perform reliably during launch without dangerous pre-ignition or degradation over time. But while her fuel was revolutionary, her name stayed off the records. On January 31, 1958, at Cape Canaveral, Florida, the Redstone-based Juno 1 rocket stood tall against the night sky. Its mission: carry Explorer 1, America's first satellite, into space. At 10:48 p.m. Eastern Time, the countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The engines roared to life. Flames and smoke enveloped the pad as the Juno 1 slowly rose, then accelerated into the dark sky. Inside its tanks, Mary's Hydyne fuel, burning hotter and cleaner than any American propellant before it. The tension was unbearable. For minutes, the world waited. Then, the signal came. Explorer 1 was in orbit. Crowds cheered. Headlines the next day proclaimed, "America enters the space age." But in all the celebration, there was no mention of Mary Sherman Morgan. Mary continued to work at North American Aviation, but her achievements remained classified. Even many of her colleagues never knew she had invented the fuel that powered America's first satellite. There were no awards, no magazine covers, no place in history books. By the time she retired, her role in the space race had been almost entirely erased. In 2004, Mary passed away quietly in California, her story largely untold. Years later, her son George Morgan began piecing together her past. In his search, he uncovered declassified documents and tracked down surviving colleagues who confirmed her central role in the creation of Hydyne. George went on to write a play, Rocket Girl, bringing his mother's story to the stage. Slowly, historians began to recognize her as America's first female rocket scientist, a woman who had overcome poverty, sexism, and lack of formal education to change the course of space exploration. Today, Mary Sherman Morgan is celebrated not only for her technical brilliance, but for what she represents: the countless women in STEM whose work has gone unnoticed. Mary's fuel sent America's first satellite into space. But her greatest legacy is the proof that genius can come from the most unlikely places. A poor farm in North Dakota, a wartime munitions factory, a lab where one woman's quiet persistence outshined the doubts of everyone around her. The rockets may have carried men to the stars, but sometimes it takes a woman to light the fire. If you really like the story of Mary Sherman Morgan and want us to make more videos on hidden American legends life stories, please like and subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon to get the first update of the American legends. Till next video, stay tuned.